episode of EdTalks, where we dive deep into the topic of modernizing L&D. I'm your host, Inna Horvath, the learning strategist at Eli, and joining us today is Rita Azevedo, a strategic learning partner manager at Sana. Passionate about the intersection of learning and technology, Rita believes the future of L&D depends on its professionals having a rich understanding of both. Hi, Rita, it's lovely to see you today.
Hi, Ina. Nice to be here with you today.
Yeah, so just a couple of words about our agenda for today. From navigating challenges to seizing opportunities, we are here to uncover the nuances of AI adoption in the realm of L&D. And yes, again, but I promise that this angle you haven't seen yet. Join us as we unravel practical tips to overcome challenges and equip L&D leaders with the tools they need to harness the power of AI efficiently. So this episode is promised to be no fluff, as said by Rita, and who has huge expertise in this issue. So stay tuned to learn practical strategies. So if you don't mind, we will start as usual from rapid fire questions. Just a couple of questions to warm up, which we ask each and every speaker of ours, and then summarize by the end of the season the answers. So first question, so what book or a resource can you recommend on L&D or education topics?
This is an amazing question. It's a hard question because I think there's a lot of great books out there, but my absolute favorite that I would say changed my way of looking into design is the book called Understanding by Design by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe. This is a book that offers a bit of a different framework on how to think about learning experiences, and they really teach you on this idea of backwards planning as well. So for me, that is a classic that I would recommend.
And it's really great because no one has mentioned this book so far, so really great resource.
Amazing. Yes.
Who do you recommend to follow and invite to this podcast from L&D experts?
So I will have to be very biased because I will recommend one of my very first mentors in L&D. His name is Philip Lam, and he was one of my managers when I started my career in L&D, and he really taught me about not falling into old mental models in learning
Mhm.
and development, trying to innovate always. So I would really recommend him.
Fantastic. If you're watching this online, we are going to attach all the links with QR code. Can you share a memorable failure or a setback in your L&D journey and how did you overcome it?
Absolutely. So one of my very first projects when I started working in L&D corporate in the corporate world was to purchase a learning platform.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say I started with the one of the biggest failures, and I learned it fast. But essentially, we looked into a lot of different tools. We spent months doing this work, and only at the end, when we had already selected a tool or we had already a preferred tool, we went to our leaders in the company. So this was a very IT, strong, company, and we quickly realized that this would never work for them. And I think my main learning from this that helped me overcome was the fact that I should never assume that my customers, aka my learners, actually are aligned in what I believe in.
Mhm.
So from that moment on, I made sure to always be a partner, no matter what.
Yeah, sounds great. And I love the word customer and partner in terms of talking to about L&D. So yeah, what question must be asked on a job interview for L&D specialist?
Hmm? That's a hard question. I think for me, asking what is the biggest challenge in L&D today will help me understand if I am interviewing someone, if that person has the priorities in the right
Mhm.
place. So I would say that's what I would ask.
Yeah, sounds great. And last but not the least, if you had to give just one piece of advice to someone who's just starting their career in L&D, what would that be?
Hmm? I would say don't accept blindly what you hear out there L&D wise. I think there are a lot of mental models that are predominantly old, For example, the idea that when you're designing a learning experience, you should follow the ADKAR model, for example, or that you should go into maybe a toolkit that has been used for ages.
Mhm.
So I would say my one piece of advice is think by yourself, think for yourself, and don't get stuck into mental models just because an L&D person has told you. Challenge that.
Yeah, sounds great. And with that, let's come to the main topic of our discussion today, AI, of course. So we promised no fluff. So let's start strong right from the very beginning. Could you share some examples from personal experience of successful AI implementation in L&D? I feel that it's a very important question because we talk a lot philosophically about AI. This is
Yeah.
great because it will improve your day-to-day job. But how exactly? It would be really lovely to hear from someone who actually did the job and has a background to share. So, yeah, what's your take on that?
That's a very good question. And I would say that in my experience, the best practices have been from companies, organizations, and L&D professionals who first take a step back to understand what is it that they are spending the most time in that they maybe shouldn't be spending time on. For example, I believe deeply that life gets in the way in any job. I mean, truthfully, not just L&D. So it's very likely that you listening today might be spending 80% of your time on things that maybe are not providing 20, the full value of your time in the end of the day. So I would really take a step back, look into those things, and then understand how AI could help you do that. For example, AI can be many things. AI can be generative, AI can be prescriptive, right? Can be autonomous. So, one great example would be to use AI to automate the learning journeys that you are pushing to your learners, right? So, instead, for example, of you manually adding, manually scheduling all those programs to new joiners in your organization, actually AI can do that on autopilot on your
Mhm.
behalf. So that's just a very specific example of what you can do. Another example would be on analyzing data. So we always complain that L&D is not strategic enough. We don't have time to look into a lot of the data we have. I think we mostly are sitting on the data we need. We
Mhm.
just don't analyze it, and I think AI, I mean, can do that really well for you as well. AI can look into a piece of a document or a collection of different documents, and it can allow you to make sense of that, right? To find conclusions. And of course, the most common use case, even though with that I do want to tell you to take this with a pinch of salt, is generative, right? AI can help you save 80% of your time in generating new experiences, new learnings, new trainings, new learning personas. I guess where the pinch of salt comes from is think about if you're using AI to just create more, because not everything can make a dent in your organization simply by having more and more content. So I would say take a step back and make sure you're not using it just to create. And last but not least, I think AI can be implemented really well to improve and scale the experience of your learners. For
Mhm.
example, learners, and I'm sure you listening also face yourself with this issue where you have a lot of information out there and you don't know where to find it. We all do this, especially in major organizations. You probably have an intranet, you have maybe another place out there with folders, etc., etc. AI can allow you to be almost a knowledge assistant, right? So something that you search, you get the answer that you need. And we know this for sure, that this can help you save tremendous amount of time. Imagine a salesperson that always gets help from the AI when they have to fill in an RFP, for example, or a customer success professional that gets a question from the customer. AI can allow you to get that answer when you train it in the right way. So I would say these are just some practical examples, but generally, to start with, take a step back, understand where you're spending a lot of the time, or where you're spending maybe the time that you shouldn't be spending on, right? And then evaluate if that could be a help to you.
Sounds fantastic, and it truly gives a much different value to L&D itself. So
Exactly.
just by seeing all of these problems that we as L&D professionals can help solve by adopting AI technology is turning the whole industry upside down. Because, well, I was just having the conversation with the one with chief learning officer, and he expresses the belief that probably in future, once the crisis is here, well, first things first, what gets cut? Training budget, L&D departments, and so on. But once you help to solve such major problems that answer really deep business problems that
Yes.
business needs, then it's a whole other picture. And well,
If I can just add to that, I think you brought such an important point. I think AI can help you be the person or the L&D professional you've always were meant to be. I think in a way AI can help you save the time so that you can do what you should always be doing, and that is solve people problems, accelerating business performance. I deeply believe that.
yeah. So the L&D professional this town deserves, right? So yeah.
Exactly. We deserve better.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so speaking of integrating AI on practice, how do you assess the readiness of an organization? Because I did face the situation when managers did provide employees with AI tools. However, they didn't have basic understanding of prompting, or I don't know why AI hallucinates sometimes. So the whole project turned to failure.
Mhm.
How do you assess the readiness in this aspect?
That's a good question. And I think, as with anything, one of the biggest and most important skills for an L&D professional, in my view, is change management. When you buy a learning tool, you need to change, you need to use change management in your portfolio, right? You need to make a buzz, you need to bring playbooks so that people know and have the education to use the tool correctly. This is the exact same thing with AI. I would say I know many L&D professionals out there whose organizations don't even allow
Mhm.
to think about it, and that's okay. If you are in that place, there's not much at the moment you can do. I mean, you could still be a culture bearer, but you are limited. I would say if your organization is willing to try AI, then use use the skills that you would use in any other L&D project. Be an influencer, right? Internally, be someone who can get the buy-in that you need in different places in the organization. This could be middle managers, this could be specific ambassadors that can help you, be a ripple effect, a person. At the same time, try to understand, who do you want to get started with. I think you brought an interesting point, Ina, because in many cases, maybe it's not a good idea to start implementing AI to everyone. I don't think everyone will need it right now. Identify a department, identify a job role
Mhm.
that you think can really benefit from AI. I already gave some examples, right? Salespeople, customer support, perhaps even engineers, right? They can take huge benefits from AI. Start with that department, prove it, right? Make a use case, prove it, get some data, and then go beyond and use them as a great example. And I think this is a skill that will take you in to great success, not just around AI but just generally speaking. So how I would assess the readiness of an organization, um, I would look currently into their stack, into their tech stack, right? You can kind of see where an organization is depending on what technology they use, but I would also really, as an L&D professional, go and speak to the people who can make those decisions, understand why or why not there are fears around it. And then, even, and this is maybe a small tip, but even if your organization tells you, you know what, Rita, we're not going to do it in the foreseeable future, that's okay. you still can make the organization ready by indirectly teaching them about what AI is and what it could mean for their job. You don't have to implement AI per
Mhm.
se. You can indirectly bring the behaviors you're looking for so that when you are ready, people are ready as well. And lastly, on the implementation and change management process, you brought a good point as well, in the sense that people didn't know how to prompt, right? So there's a lot of education included in allowing that to happen. And I think there are tools out there where you can start with a baby step, right? You can
Mhm.
start with workspace, you add a couple of documents in there, and then that can be your assistant for a specific use case, right? So I would say, yeah, start small, and don't be afraid to be a culture bearer even
Mhm.
when your organization doesn't believe.
Yeah. S- So we do have a really great opportunity to drive the change. This is something what we've been talking for years, that just as you mentioned, that we are becoming people who we are supposed to be. And it sounds really inspiring, I have to tell you that. But I would like to talk about handling organizational skepticism a bit later in details. But since we are here, you mentioned the indirect influencing. So could you give some more examples on that? So how do you do that in case that your company is strictly opposite implementing AI?
Mhm. I was talking to someone the other day, a friend, and I said, um, change comes from the ability to tolerate arguments, and and then it was kind of a funny. We both laughed because it's true. I think you need to be able to handle confrontation sometimes to make the right changes in an organization. Some people are lucky that they are in a company that is forward thinking. I would say specifically for that, indirect influence means what can you control right now before you buy something, right? Before you buy a tool. What is it that you can control? You can control data. You could already find where are people spending the most amount of time? Where
Mhm.
are they, having this sunk cost, right? As we say in economics. And then you can help build a case for AI potentially. Secondly, help people with this idea that AI is going to destroy humanity.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there's still a lot of people with that view, and I don't blame them. But I
Well, we
think
watched a lot of films about that, so
a lot of movies, I know, and a lot of Matrix and whatnot. But I mean, I love Matrix, but yeah, still. So I would say, how can you help the organization? And I know one of your questions will be around myths as well, right? So, what are the myths that are out there? You be curious and discover that these are indeed myths, and
Mhm.
educate people internally that these are not true. And I guess my main tip, to be very clear, is that you may not change everything. You may not change the opinion that your organization wants to use AI, but at least you will be building a more resilient, a more resilient workforce towards what's going to come. Because I can guarantee you, and I think this I am sure of, that even if an organization doesn't use it today, I can guarantee in 12 months, minimum, they will be rethinking some
Yeah,
of their choices. So I would say it's just a matter of time. So, clock is ticking. You don't need to change everything today, but get ready by this indirect influence.
yeah, absolutely agree with this point. So, talking about, I think the issue here is a little bit even bigger. If we may step a little bit further, we're talking a lot about viewing L&D specialists more than just content creators, but in terms of business analysis and so on, so other topics that we could potentially help with. But I think it's really up to the organization how they view the training and their training systems in their organizations in terms of content creation, or much more, something that potentially can grow to a larger tool to assess and then solve business needs. But I do think that it's also about educating the leaders not just organization, but also L&D leaders as well. And just to give you a quick example, we are going to have a wonderful guest from Coursera, Joitika, and she mentioned an example from about their CEO. And once the AI just started blossoming, what he did, he created a course how CEOs can use AI right now already and why they should start thinking about that. And he created a Slack channel where all of the employees could share their views on AI, explore the tools, just exchange ideas. So the whole change started from the head, right? And then it went to everyone within the organization. And that's what I truly believe in, that change comes from the top ideally. However, it's not always possible, and there might be some reasons that we just might not be aware of. From that side, probably they have very strong arguments, so I'm not saying that it's just one way street, right? So in terms of educating L&D leaders and organizational leaders, so what are the essentials that in AI they should familiarize themselves with?
Good question. Um, AI is a new technology. There's a lot that even 6 months ago I didn't know about AI. Um, we need to be very curious about this technology, I would say, and the truth is things are changing every day, about how algorithms are being built, about how data is being fed, and whatnot. I would say there are two main places to start as an L&D professional, at least, that then can help you educate the organization with you. Number one, I would say it can be of great value to study what is actually AI, right? There's a lot of noise out there. And the truth is, many of the products that you see out there, perhaps they are not purely AI. And I will explain what that means. So if you look into the AI stack, you have four main categories, in my view. First, you start with the hardware, you start
Mhm,
with the infrastructure, right? And here we're talking about AWS, NVIDIA, Google, right? So all those partners that indeed are making things happen on the hardware side of things. And I mean, AI occupies a lot of space in the world, and these companies are helping us to be more efficient on how we literally do that from a space perspective. I mean, NVIDIA even, I mean, every day they're releasing new GPUs, extremely,
mhm,
way more powerful than they used to be, occupy less space. I mean, all of these things. On top of that, you have the second model, which is the actual AI models. So what we're talking about today, oh, ChatGPT, that's just a model that is built on billions, trillions of information that can provide you with some conclusions.
mhm,
But those can be very general and you'd need to work on them. You need to put some work on actually making sense of that, right? So again, you would have OpenAI, Anthropic, so companies who are building models. And,
mhm,
and these are very few at the moment. On top of that, you have AI based products. So products that without AI, they wouldn't exist. They are built literally centered around AI. Runway, I mean, Sana as well. I mean, without AI, we wouldn't exist. The whole product is shaped around it. And then you have products with AI features. And I would say that's where a lot of the noise can come from today. And I was in London recently, and people came from a big conference, and everyone was like, "I'm so overwhelmed." AI was everywhere, and the truth is, most of those uh, that noise is a product with an AI feature. It's a product that exists for a long time, and now they're like, "Uh oh, I need to make things happen." So we're going to go in and create a few AI features here and there. So, being really aware of what AI truly means can help you make better decisions and can help you educate the people around you as well to make decisions. So, that would be starting with the basics, understanding that.
mhm.
And the second, on in terms of like understanding of AI, would be this idea that um, AI is unsafe. And I do want to explain what I mean with this. There are many products out there where you can actually model into your own wishes without that information ever being shared with ChatGPT, with OpenAI, with these other companies. There are, you can utilize AI already today in an isolated manner. So I think it's just important to understand that everything you hear may not be true
Mhm.
in the end of the day. So I think with those two things, we can probably help leaders making better decisions internally ourselves, maybe not going to the next shiny thing, right? I always use this example, but I still remember a few years ago when I was, now I'm not on the client side anymore, but I used to be on the client side, right? I used to be an internal L&D, and I recall many people coming to me and saying, "Why haven't we bought VR sets?" And that being like, "It's the next big thing," and
Yeah.
that really didn't happen. So there's a lot of objection handling that we
Mhm.
may be doing, and don't be afraid to stand your ground in a way.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds really great. And yeah, thank you for this overview. I feel that in a nutshell, you've properly described everything that you need to know about AI. And yeah, so moving on to the ways to get this knowledge, right? Because it's always a painful topic in terms of upskilling within the L&D. And once you do sign to all of the LinkedIn resources, some webinars, communities, you feel a little bit overwhelmed. So but there is another side that if you do create any sort of questionnaire, how do you feel about AI within L&D? 30% will say I'm actively using it, 30 will say I don't use it at all and I'm not going to, and another 30 will say, well, I actually need more knowledge to express my opinion. So, and I think that this is more or less reliable statistics, we can say so. So, how do you upskill yourself? How do you gain more knowledge? Maybe some online courses or books or anything like that.
I would ask ChatGPT how I would get better. But I mean, jokes aside, I think that I personally, as an L&D professional, I really love Ross Stevenson's information, and I know he has been on this podcast as well. I wake up, I think, Monday mornings with a newsletter, and I really like it.
Yeah.
Um, what I like about it is that he actually goes very much on the technical side of like
Mhm,
prompting and things like that. But I mean, jokes aside, I would also ask. Literally, I would ask AI how to learn more about AI. My personal preference is to go into places where I learn about the holistic view of why and how, what are the big metrics, the macro
mhm,
the macro influence of AI. So I personally, I love McKinsey blogs. I would say every week I take a lot of inspiration from that for
mhm,
one main reason, and that is with AI. Of course, AI needs data, and I also like to see reports, blogs, information that has a strong research base. Right? I mean, hundreds of thousands of people, and that's something that typically their resources allow you to have that. They are very representative of what's happening around. But I would say for more specifics on how to use it, how to prompt, and so on, I would actually do trial and error.
mhm.
Create a ChatGPT account with your own personal account. The best way to learn is to try it out. I remember when I started doing my own questions and so on, I realized quickly that I was a bit disappointed because the answers were very general.
Yep.
And then it was only until I started to ask, okay, follow up questions. And then, but this is what I want. This is what my organization needs, etc., etc. So I think really there's nothing like learning by doing still today. I would really do that. And then, last but not least, I would try to discover what are the different personas of AI, because AI is not just ChatGPT. As I said before, AI can help you predict, generate, describe, percept, automate. It's many different things. So I would also look into the use cases of all of them, really,
Mhm.
because it could, I mean, I can guarantee you, you are already using AI today in some of your apps without even realizing it. I mean, when you order something from a food app, things are um, they show up to you based on previous behaviors, based on things that are favorite to you, based on your geography. That's AI. So it's not this big scary thing. You're already using it, very likely. So I would look into those resources.
Yeah, sounds great. And just like you said previously, things change too fast. So it's okay that you feel overwhelmed, but most important that, yeah, you might not get the latest piece of information, the latest research. You might not have time to do that. But as long as you just keep trying, doing something that really benefits your work, then you would be already on the winner side, right? So, but however, I do realize that there might be someone who says, okay, we talk about prompting, we talk about technicalities, we talk about security, but I'm an L&D specialist. I'm not supposed to be an IT guy. That's not my job. I don't understand how to do that. So there are a lot of organizations who do believe the same way, that there are some ways that they are used to do certain processes, so why changing them? There are a lot of misconceptions, just to bring you a bit closer to the topic of handling organizational skepticism. Are there any misconceptions, fears maybe, that organizations typically have, and how to um, address them?
Many. I think we could have 2 hours
Yes.
talking about misconceptions. I can try to sum them up.
Yep.
The first one, the first misconception is the fact that your data is not secure, or that there are major data privacy concerns. And here, my main advice would be to again look into solutions where you can still reap the benefits of AI without sharing your company information out there. I mean, that's what Copilot is, right? That's what Sana AI is. I mean, there's many things out there that already are giving you that security. You can still reap the benefits. You can basically train the models with your own company information. That's the first one. Not every model or not every AI will share your company information with everywhere. That's a very common mistake. The second one, and I mean, time will see, but I deeply believe in this. That people are afraid that there will be job replacement.
Mhm.
And here I think, I mean, data shows that there will be some job replacement. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? It is true. I mean, there are, same when we the technological advancements of the 2000s, right? I mean, the upcoming of the internet, what Uber, for example, meant to local taxi drivers. Like, of course, change will happen, and I don't want to lie about it. However, I think people think it's worse than what it actually is. I think that typically what's going to happen is that AI is going to complement your human expertise rather than, replacing it entirely. And I think there are things that only you can explaining things like a true human would do. And I deeply believe that, and I have this quote that I keep using it, but garbage in, garbage out is the same with AI. If you lack the wrong um, context, the wrong needs of your organization, AI will only exacerbate your flaws. It will only give you wrong information and wrong results. So I would say it very much won't replace that. You still need to be the curator of your own life in a way, and of your own job as well. So I would say that's like probably a skepticism that I would very much squash, because it's just unfounded.
Mhm.
Again, while recognizing that yes, some jobs will be replaced, but then you have to start now, right? You have to be ahead of the curve right now. And I do believe that one of the skills in L&D that we should always nurture is to be tech curious. And this is not really a skill, but it's more of an attitude, more of a behavior. Tech can truly change the way you do learning, so don't be afraid to think in that way as well. And then another one would be the how do I say this, biases. So yes, there are some biases in some models. It is true. This is already proven. However, while this is a very valid concern, this can be very well mitigated with the proper data, with the
Mhm.
way you add your algorithms, with monitoring. And again, as I said, if you want to use AI for your own company, it won't be biased because it will be your company data on it, not the world's data. So I mean, there's much more really, but I would say to start with, these would be the main ones that I would
Yes.
add.
I think these are the most painful points of the whole conversation, and especially in terms of layoffs. I have to be honest, I was quite pessimistic myself in this
Yeah.
respect. A couple of months ago, I was having a conversation with my colleagues because, in terms of content creation, I used to be an instructional designer, and I did recall when we spent hours on just making a character walk in
Yes.
PowerPoint, and it was absolutely crazy that we used to spend so much time on something that can be done with AI generated videos like AI or anything that can be just made animated within seconds or
Yeah.
translated within seconds.
Yeah.
So I did express the thought that yes, major changes are coming for personnel. However, my colleague pointed out that, you know, in terms of technology, our management doesn't usually know what we do and how we do. So they're not aware of all the tools if you in the universe. So if you do make some projects much faster, they will be only happy.
Of
The
course.
so the issue here is if you are ready to adopt those tools personally. So yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, thinking about the role of an instructional design, um, I think that's a really good role, right? Because it will be a bit affected as AI will be able to save you tons of time in the creation process. But then, I mean, I don't know an AI out there that you prompt something, you give it some instructions, and it gives you a perfect answer. I haven't found it. I always say this to my partners, to the people I advise, that AI will give you a 75-80% support, but
mhm,
then the rest is up to you. You need to make it your own. There are only examples that only you know in the organization that you can make a question about, right? You can ask a reflection about. And I am sorry, like I don't see it happening still today. But probably for a company, maybe they don't need a team of 10 instructional designers. Maybe they need a team of 5 or 7. And this is, if you are an instructional designer out there, start reinventing, start learning other skills as well, because um, I think that will help you be much more versatile.
absolutely. Like you said, AI is a support. So
Support.
think that's the attitude we need to adopt, all of us.
Yeah.
So, there you have it, dear listeners. Another episode of EdTalks draws to a close, and we hope that today's discussion has provided you with valuable insights into the realm of AI adoption and L&D. Thank you so much, Rita, for your input. It truly was amazing to have a discussion with you.
It went by very fast.
Yes,
I was
absolutely, absolutely. So, this is Ina signing off from EdTalks, and stay tuned for more enriching conversations. Until the next time.